Hi, I'm Khleif. Each and every week, I record an interview with a thought leader that I know you're going to get a ton of value from. Now, here on YouTube are the video versions of my podcast, Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. Now, to make sure you get the latest information, please subscribe and hit the notification bell. Let's get started. Welcome to another edition of How to Build Lifetime Cash Flow Through Real Estate Investing. I'm Khleif, and I'm thrilled you're here. And I know you're going to enjoy the dynamic lady I'm interviewing today. Her name is Briscoe, and Karen wrote a book called she talks about the 5-minute success concept, and her book is Real Estate Success in 5 Minutes a Day. Now, it's geared towards real estate agents, but the principles really apply to any business, and that's why I wanted her on the show. So I'm very excited to get into this with her. Karen, welcome to the show.
I'm delighted to be here, Rod, and we have a couple of mutual friends.
Yes, we do. Talk about that.
Well, so that's how I met you, was through our mutual friend, Hal Elrod, which I know you've had on your show.
Right.
And I was recently in San Diego at his Best Year Ever Blueprint, which is a 3-day symposium to, set up for success for your next year. And I was on Entrepreneur Day in a group with a guy who's gone through your programs.
Right.
And so that's how I was introduced to you, and did a little bit of research when I got back. And so here we are.
No, that's a beautiful thing. Well, that I'm a huge proponent for the psychology of success, and that, that really 80 to 90% of your success in anything hinges on your psychology. Only 10 to 20% is the real estate stuff, or the entrepreneurship stuff, or, whatever sector of whatever vehicle you're going to use to achieve financial success. So I love the fact that you're on the show today, because I know that a big piece of what you enjoy talking about, and your book is about, is mindset and psychology. And so, but let's get into it. So you wrote the 5-minute success, real estate success in 5 minutes a day, forgive me. And this whole concept around success in 5 minutes. Can you talk about how you got into this realm, and maybe a little bit of your background that brought you to this place?
Well, so as you mentioned, my background is in residential real estate, and I had achieved success at a high level pretty rapidly, made it to the Wall Street Journal top realtor team list and the top 250 in the nation. And as often happens when people achieve at a high level, everybody wants to know how I did it, right? And so I would share these stories, I would share examples, and they were sticky and memorable. They were not just information, but they were inspiring. And people said that I should write a book, and I would refer them to other real estate books and other investing books and other books on sales and business. And invariably, they all said they didn't have time to actually read the book. And I'm like, okay, well, do you have 5 minutes a day? Because really, truthfully, the idea that if you invest a small amount of time can actually have a huge impact. There's this law called Parkinson's law that says that limiting or restricting time can actually make us more efficient and effective. And so the other benefit of doing something daily, and we can talk about that in relation to Hal Elrod and the Miracle Morning, part of the Miracle Morning is to read daily. And oftentimes people don't know what to read. And so that's where the idea of the real estate success in 5 minutes a day was born. It turned out to be way larger than that, because the principles, as you mentioned in the book, the 5-minute success principles, really apply to almost every endeavor. I have a podcast as well, the 5-minute success podcast. I've interviewed over 100 people, and they all find that everybody does these basic core aspects to the success principles. And so then it became really more about, habits and mindset. That really is limiting beliefs, and mindset and motivation often, in most cases, lie with us. And so what can we do to change? And that's when habit formation has really become one of my key aspects, and helping people set up the habits. And people sometimes think that takes a lot of time. And I'm like, again, 5 minutes a day can have an impact.
No kidding. Well, No question. In fact, in my live events, I spend some time on limiting beliefs. We actually do an exercise on limiting beliefs because they're so impactful. You know, we have these childhood beliefs that are even sometimes subconscious that limit us. You know, there's a reason the acronym for belief systems is BS, because in 99% of the time they are. You know, we've had this emotional occurrence in our life that may just be subconscious, but we've placed emotional weight on it, and our mind views it as factual. I mean, I tell the story. I got, humiliated on the playground when I was young, and it was traumatic for me, and then bullies in my life and all this stuff that everybody's experienced. But it caused me to create this question, which was, how can I show them I'm good enough? You know, and which presupposed that I wasn't good enough, obviously, and had a huge impact on my life, both positive and negative. But in most cases, it's just negative. But so no, that's very interesting. And so let's get into your this 5-minute strategy that you came up with. I mean, obviously, you looked, and it's funny, I was hearing you tell the story about how people would come up to you and say, write a book, and then you'd give them books, and it just kind of resonated with me, because I had the same thing happen to me, and I used to do the same thing, and finally bit the bullet myself. But anyway, so 5-minute success. Let's dig into that. So, can you give us maybe a high level, or what should we start with on that?
Well, so what it drills down to, that I found, is there's really 4 aspects that are key to success long term. And the first one is commit to get leads. Because
Right.
Until you have a lead, you have nothing to do. If you're an investor, until you have a property or a seller to work with or an investment to work with, you really have nothing to do.
Right. So guys, as it relates to this conversation, we're talking committing to getting leads. So certainly you need seller leads. You need, if you're going to syndicate or bring in partners or investors, you need investor leads. So, this is this is marketing. And if you think that multifamily real estate doesn't involve marketing, you're sadly mistaken. So this is a critical component, which is why I thought it'd be valuable, to have Karen on the show. So commit to get leads. So what does that look like?
Well, so it includes systems, because what I find that if you can systematize things, it's back to similar to habits. If you create systems, then you will be more likely to figure out quickly what does work and what doesn't work, and you will stay consistent. And over time, you'll figure out again what's working, what doesn't work. Market knowledge is part of getting leads, because I'm an investor in properties myself, and I have knowledge about which markets achieve a higher level return than others. That is a key aspect to getting leads. And then the follow through of it, because I think also most people, they stop way too soon. 80% of the sales is made after the 5th call, and that could be the same for going and finding investor money, and as well as in finding the actual investments. And most people give up way too soon. So the commit to get leads in terms of opportunities and ideas is an expanded way. You mentioned David Osborne, and he's been...
Oh, yeah. Before we started recording, I had David Osborne on the show for you guys. If you haven't listened to that episode, it's fantastic. And he introduced me to Hal Elrod, and they co-authored Miracle Morning for Millionaires. But what were you going to say about David?
Well, because when I talked with him, he doesn't do lead generation like a new real estate agent would or a new investor would. What he's lead generating now is lead generating for opportunities. And so it actually applies, like I said, very universally. So then once you have the lead, whatever that lead is, whatever you're calling it, then there's a consult to sell component. There's a process.
Okay, hold on. Before we move on to that, I know that's the next thing. I want to circle back to some of the stuff you just said, because I want to enhance it just slightly, or have you enhance it. So you talked about systems, and guys, any business is nothing but people and systems. In fact, right now in my thought leadership business, I literally just had conversations yesterday with my sales team, with my ops team, to set up KPIs and systems, because we've been working in the business. Now it's time to work on the business. So I'm doing the same thing that you're ultimately going to have to do in this multifamily business: create systems. So I love that. Now, when you speak to market knowledge, in what context are you using it? Because in my view, whenever you're approaching prospective leads, your ability to educate them and about the market, for example, I'm thinking educating them about a particular, say, a submarket that you're interested in buying in. That's where my mind went, but I don't think that's probably what you meant by that. What do you mean by market knowledge?
Well, what brings value? Ultimately, right?
Good question. Good question.
So, like, for example, I have an investment property that's in a really great school district, and it always brings a higher value than another one. Now, I paid more for it. So then determining what those values are, and then also applying what I call New York, New York. So if you know a market brings a certain value and you want to recreate that, then go to other markets that have similar attributes. And once you can distill down and drill down to what is it that creates the value, then you can look for those. I mean, that's how, real estate development has occurred for over time, but but sometimes people don't realize that they can do that too, just by understanding their market.
Let me enhance that as well, if you'll humor me, just because I want to translate it into how it really applies in this business, because we just did this with my coaching students, where we having them present specific submarkets, and that's exactly what they're doing. They're showing how those markets are valuable. Like we just did one on Kansas City, and what's great about Kansas City, the top employers that are there. It's known for the best barbecue, and on and on and on. So having that knowledge, when you're communicating with leads, puts you in a position of authority and an ability, and it gives you an ability to influence. Is that kind of where you're headed with that?
Absolutely. But it also can help you identify emerging markets.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, think about how Starbucks does it, right? I mean, Starbucks is going out ahead of, trying to figure out what are the emerging markets. And so if you understand what the different submarkets bring in terms of value return, then you can go find those yourself. But that requires what I call some feet on the street, sometimes. And it also requires knowing what those unique characteristics are.
Yeah. Yeah. So you can articulate them and sell them, as it were, for lack of a better word, to your prospective investors and other people on your team. Fantastic. So the third one was follow through. And I just want to put an exclamation mark on that, especially for my listeners, because I will tell you, we had my multifamily boardroom mastermind. We had about $3 billion that are in this group. And we met a few weeks ago. And one of the things that came out of that, you get all these little nuances when you get like minds together. But one of the things that came out of that was a lot of these guys got their deals in this hot market. They got their deals by staying on top of and reconnecting with deals they thought were gone. And that, in other words, that equals follow through. Same thing applies with any lead of any sort. If it's an investor, you've got to keep them warm. You've got to be, in front of them, sending them emails, market information, educational pieces, whatever, just to, and that's the key. With brokers, it's follow through. With investors, it's follow through. With as it relates to this business. So just want to hammer that home. So thank you for humoring me on that, Karen. So the next one, you're going to talk about habits. Can you expand on that one?
Well, I just want to share a thought about that. My father, he invested in antique cars for many years, and he was telling me a story, and he was sharing that there was this one particular Maxwell sports car that he wanted. It was called a Roadster, and he had talked to the seller of it, and the guy, he'd offered a price, and the guy said, not selling, not now, not ever. And my father said he did something really interesting. He put a tickler in his calendar for 1 year to the day. And 1 year to the day, he went back, and the guy's situation had completely changed. His wife was not in good health. He was like, you know what, if you bring the money today, I will sell you that car. So the strategy is of the follow through. I can't tell you, that's a great idea actually, but I can't tell you what it is, but whatever it is, to just know that at some point that seller probably will become a real seller. And
you bet. Let me give you another example. Let me give you a related example to multifamily. In that boardroom, I've got a guy named Glenn Gonzalez. He has 4,000 plus doors. He met a guy 10 years ago that somehow they did some business deal. I don't know the exact detail, but he stayed in touch with this guy and they befriended them, and he bought 1,700 doors from this guy because of the follow through. And I mean, I give you numerous examples of this, guys, but what you just said as well, if you're doing a direct to seller campaign, let's say you've got somebody making outbound calls and they call and say, hey, are you interested in selling? And they say no, they should always say, can I call you back in a year and see where you're at? So very good. Awesome.
It's a great strategy.
Yeah. Awesome. So the next one then.
Well, the consult to sell, or conversion, some people call it. I mean, you still have to take that lead through the process, right? Because it comes out on the other end because you take them through a process. I mean, there's some people that are, great at getting the leads, but they lose it on the.
Got to convert them. Yeah, I mean, you've got to take them from a friend, from a contact to an investor, so let's gear this towards bringing in investors. So.
There's a process and a skill, and that's something that you obviously are great at and teach, and so I don't necessarily need to belabor that, but just know that it is, because it's a skill. Okay. It can be learned, right?
So let's give some examples. So, what you would do, and I would recommend, is to have an education-based framework. So, when you're talking to somebody, a potential investor, you would of course whet their appetite and say, hey, if we can get a return of 12, 13%, do you know anybody who might be interested? And then if they have an interest themselves, and then, you educate them. You can use a sample deal package to show them and say, hey, if I find a deal like this, might you be interested? But then you start educating them about the submarket. And I was just talking about that. We had our students, one did Kansas City, another one did Boise, Idaho, and they're selling us on that submarket. And you're going to have to do the same thing with your investor. You're going to have to, let them know why you love Des Moines, Iowa, and what's great about Des Moines, Iowa, and then again, as it relates to the follow through, then you're sending emails that talk about how amazing Des Moines, Iowa is, and you're staying in you've got some sort of a tickler system like your dad had, Karen, and now there's great CRMs out there that are free or practically free. There's Zoho, there's Insightly, there's really simple systems, or even an Excel spreadsheet. But I mean, with the CRMs that are out there right now, why even bother with an Excel spreadsheet? But use a CRM to have that follow through. But love it. So you've got to convert them, and you convert them. In my opinion, the best way is through education. Would you agree?
Absolutely. And that's why I actually changed it from conversion to consult to sell.
Oh,
because when you have a consultative approach, then you are educating them. But when I was hearing you, what came to mind is you have to have them in your classroom to be able to educate them. Mm-hmm. So that's why the lead generation is important. I think some people are good at the consulting or the educating portion, but they're like, they don't have anybody to consult.
Right. No, you know what? And since you brought that up, I just thought of something. Guys, I will tell you that a great way to build that investor list is to set up your own little thought leadership platform, because you've got to have, for lack of a better analogy, you have this funnel, and you have to have a lot of people coming in the top of the funnel that you work through these other steps to get, to become an investor, as it were. And we're just using investors in this example, but this could apply to really any type of a sale or a relationship that you're building. But you've got to have people come in the top of the funnel. And one strategy for that, is to start educating through YouTube, or do a podcast, or write a book, or, a lot of the people that have been on my show are writing books, or they've got their own Facebook group now, or whatever it is, to do that prospecting piece, committing to getting leads. That's I'm just giving you strategy here, really, for that number one on your list here, Karen, is as some concrete examples of how someone might commit to continuing to have those leads coming in. So.
Oh, yeah, it's a continuous pipeline. But what often happens is that they'll get them through the process, and they will then go back and start all over again. And that creates what I found is like a hamster wheel. So they're only as good as their next deal. And that's where the next component of connect, to build, and grow comes in. Okay. And where you create a scalable, ongoing enterprise, which is something that you teach and is really key, because it's looking at the macro, looking at the big picture, but also looking at the micro. And you mentioned the working on your business. This is the working on your business. aspect to the,
right. And you've got to set it up. Otherwise, it'll never be a business. It'll just be you. You've got to set up those systems. And what's amazing with technology is you can automate a lot of this. I mean, we use software that sends the emails to tens of thousands of people a week, and it personalizes them. And, and so technology is so amazing. To systemize this follow through, to systemize even the top end of the funnel, and to keep, keep the business and to keep your business thriving. Because what will happen, a lot of people will focus on, and I'm sure you've seen this, Karen, will focus on one piece of this, like maybe getting leads, and then they're not staying on top of the conversions, or then they work on the conversions and they forget to have more leads coming in. And it's and you're kind of, taking one step forward, two step backward. And I mean, I know this because I went through this when I was a real estate broker. I went through this when I was a real estate broker as well. Is you've got to have the deals coming in the door. And the same thing applies for investors. So anyway.
Yes, absolutely. And that's how you get off the hamster wheel, or some people refer to it as a roller coaster. But the dips in the business will even out the more you systematize. And so it seems counterintuitive that to working on your business is actually going to make working in your business better. But it really is true, because the people who, get up into the higher levels and look down on their business, or also join masterminds and seminars and learn beyond, otherwise you're going to hit these ceilings of achievement. And as soon as you start to hit a ceiling of achievement in your life and your business, that's when you really need to look outside yourself. It may not be your same industry. That's one thing that I love about masterminds that are in other industries, because then you hear new ideas and new ways of thinking. Podcasts are great for that. Webinars are great for that. But to get outside, because you'll only achieve at the level that you are if you're the one leading the business.
No question. And you reference masterminds, and whenever you get, different people in a room, and now you're talking about, bring different businesses entirely, which is very, very powerful as well, because, what works for marketing in one business, may have never been thought of in your business. And to bring that in is very, very powerful. Met a guy named Jay Abraham. I don't know if you know him. He's a marketing genius that's brilliant at basically bringing different marketing methodologies from one business sector to another. But yeah, the masterminds are fantastic for that. And so what's next? So you set up the systems. And you're working on the business, which is critical. And I know that's hard for some of you to think about that haven't even started yet, but I'm telling you, for it to be a business, you've got to do that piece ultimately. So what's after that?
Well, so actually if you visualize a Venn diagram, so those are the three circles of the Venn diagram, and then surrounding it all is what I call success, thinking, activities, and vision. And the reason why all three are important is you first have the vision of where you want to go, what you're creating. You think about how to do it. You still have to do the activities. I hear some people, say affirmations and visualization, and I'm like, all of that is powerful. It still requires action.
You actually have to do something too.
You actually have to do something. The seller is not going to magically appear. The investor is not going to magically appear. Now, I have a thought on the law of attraction that is a little bit different than some people. And that is, some people, I think, believe that you attract the law of attraction. You're sending out to the universe what you want to receive, and then it's kind of a matchy, like it comes back exactly that way. I believe that the energy or the activities of putting out into the universe will then open up the universe to say, oh, that person is ready, willing, and able to receive. And it may come from a different place than where you had anticipated, but you're opening yourself up for it. But I see that the opening up comes mostly in action and in activities.
No question. Now, I'm a huge believer in the law of attraction, and what you just said resonated because, I had very clearly defined what I wanted in a woman. and I'd written it out in exhaustive detail, but I wrote that I wanted a 5'7" Latina, and I ended up with a 5'10" black woman. So, it's like, but I got everything else. But it was just funny when you were saying that. It was just funny because it resonated with me. Now, I totally believe in that. And I've got vision boards here behind me, and I've got pictures of things that I want on the wall, and it's served me for decades. And I've that's how I recovered from losing $50 million, by focusing on what I wanted and having pictures around me. But you got to take action. I mean, you actually have to do something, and that's where that movie, The Secret, kind of, messed up, in my opinion. It talked about, the important stuff. Yes, I believe in the affirmations. I do it all the time when I'm jogging. I do affirmations, incantations, and I have pictures and all that business. But you actually have to take action.
And I think that the action itself is very powerful, because first of all, a lot of times people who are not in the right mindset, they're stuck. Maybe perhaps it is in the limiting beliefs, but they're stuck in some way. And one of the fastest ways to get unstuck is to get moving.
Is to actually do something. Love it. And you know what else is? Action actually mitigates the fear. The fear gets bigger with inaction. It mitigates when you take action. So it's counterintuitive. No, I love that you said that. So guys, those of you that are sitting here on the fence, not sure, caught in fear or worse, in comfort, do something. Call a broker, talk to your friends about this business, go out and evaluate a deal, just do something. And you'll see that very action will mitigate that fear and start that process. It's like the saying, take the first step, the next step will be revealed. I like the analogy that you can drive all the way across the United States at night, seeing only 50 feet in front of you, but you drive those 50 feet and you see the next 50 feet. And the same thing applies to achieving big goals or you got to get started. Love it.
You got to get started. And then I would say along the same lines is that, and it's a Warren Buffett quote, is that ultimately there's one investment that supersedes all others, and that is invest in yourself. So I think of myself as I am my greatest asset. My ability to create value and create streams of income and create opportunities and to create ideas and create relationships and create connections. That is the highest return I have ever achieved on anything. I think that a lot of people, they look at, educational programs such as yours and opportunities such as yours and masterminds, and they look at how much it costs. And I'm like, that is the wrong focus. Look at the potential return.
No, I love it. It's obvious that you've embodied these success principles. And, I know you've been in Hal Elrod's environment for 3 years. I love Hal. I'm so grateful that David got him connected to me and we got him on the show. And I've given away, as I told you before we started recording, hundreds of copies of The Miracle Morning to my coaching students. And I've got students that have done it. I've got one guy who's done it for 3 years straight and never missed a day. And so, Totally. And what's awesome about it is it's a daily practice to work on yourself. Okay. So you're embodying what you just said. And most successful people I've ever met have a morning ritual. They do something consistently and I would call it a success habit. And, if you want to be successful, you've got to develop habits for success, whatever they are, be it, and every piece of this thing we just went through with you, these are really habits that, committing to getting leads, setting up the systems, becoming knowledgeable about your market. You just, you have to habitualize this. Now, we all have bad habits, but you've got to, if you want to be a success, you've got to embody habits that are going to propel you to that success. So, beautiful.
Well, the beautiful thing about habits is that it doesn't require willpower. See, I think that people are waiting to feel like doing it. And I'm like going, that may never happen. I have another great quote. People do not decide their futures. They decide their habits, and their habits decide their futures.
Love
and
it.
setting up a morning routine habit is a way to set up a better future for yourself, because as the morning goes, then in most cases, as the rest of the day goes. And so it's really nothing more than a few simple disciplines. Instead of waiting for you to feel like doing it, set up the habits, create the disciplines, and then they will propel you into the future in the miracle.
Even if it's small stuff, guys, you know, if you commit to doing it for 90 days, you'll do it the rest of your life. I don't care what it is, but you know, just make it. You know, I get another book that I give to my coaching students is The Slight Edge, about little micro decisions and things that you do every day that you take them out a year, 3 years, 5 years. They're massive shifts in your life. So you know, it's along the same lines. Beautiful.
Well, it just takes 5 minutes a day.
That's it.
That's it. I could promise you, if you apply 5 minutes a day, you will start to achieve a higher level of success in your business and your life.
Love it. Love it. Well, listen, Karen, I'm very grateful that you were on the show. I know that you've also got a podcast. What's your podcast called again?
So it's very simple. It's the number 5 Minute Success.
5 Minute Success. Very simple. All right. Listen, Karen, thank you so much. It's been a hoot, and really grateful that you took time out of your day to be on my show with me.
And my pleasure. And here's to your success, Ron.
Thank you. Thank you. Take care. Hey, thanks for watching. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you listen to podcasts, join me on iTunes, Stitcher, or wherever you listen to those podcasts. Just search for Lifetime Cash Flow through Real Estate Investing.
Any investment opportunities mentioned on this podcast are limited to accredited investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure and subscription documentation and subject to all applicable laws.